The boy at the gate. It all started like something we brushed off as a child's fantasy. My youngest son was about 4 years old at the time. It was October, a day when fierce winds shook the city. While we all stayed inside watching TV, my son stood at the window, watching the trees sway violently. Suddenly he said with concern, "There's a boy outside." Of course, I told him that wasn't possible. How could a child be out there in this weather? I got up, went to the window, and saw nothing. But my son insisted, pointing toward the entrance of our house. We lived in a private, secure area. No fences, no gates. Yet he swore there was a boy standing there. A year later, again in October, my son spotted the same boy at the entrance. This time, I almost ignored him, until my 12-year-old daughter looked out and said, "Yes, there's a strange boy standing there." When I checked again, there was nothing. My children told me the boy was dressed oddly, like from another time. Later that evening, my husband reminded me. It was exactly 1 year after our son had first seen that mysterious boy. Life went on, and we eventually forgot about it. Until the following October. That day, as rain began to fall, I heard noises in the kitchen. Laughing at my own nerves, I went to check. On my way upstairs, I couldn't help but glance outside and froze. A small silhouette stood at our gate. I rushed to my window for a clearer view. There he was. The boy. And this time he was staring straight at me. I screamed. He was dressed as if he had stepped out of another era. Short pants with suspenders, a little cap casting a shadow over his eyes. We moved away not long after. I never found out if he would appear again the following October. Julio's last visit. This story goes back to 1996, when I was just 10 years old. At the time, I didn't fully understand it. But years later, talking with my aunt, I realized how strange it truly was. It happened to my cousin Jose Alberto, though everyone called him El Chino. He spent most of his days with his best friend Julio. They were inseparable, always playing in the garage with action figures. Julio came from a poor family and didn't own toys like those, so he was always at Chino's house. One Sunday, Chino got a phone call. He went quiet, then told my aunt there would be no school the next day. On Monday, he spent the entire day in the garage with Julio. Tuesday, the same thing. But on Tuesday afternoon, my aunt met another boy's mother at the store. Casually, she asked how Jose Alberto was dealing with Julio's death. Confused, my aunt asked what she meant. The woman explained. Julio had gone to a baseball game with his brothers that Sunday morning. He climbed up on a wall for a better view, but it collapsed under him. He died instantly. Shocked, my aunt ran home. She found Chino still in the garage, insisting he'd been with Julio all along. For days, she even heard Julio's voice coming from there. Neighbors swore they saw the boys playing together, just as always. Chino cried for the first time when my aunt told him the truth. He went to therapy afterward, but he never forgot. Years later, at Chino's funeral, my aunt whispered, "I'm sure Julio was waiting for him in heaven." The woman at the window. My father, though never a believer in the supernatural, went through some terrifying experiences in his life. Strange lights in the sky, ghostly apparitions on the road. But the scariest one happened when he was just 6 years old. His parents had to leave suddenly one night for a family emergency, so they left him at the home of Dona Juanita, an elderly neighbor. Her house was tiny, just 2 wooden rooms with beds so fragile they looked like they might collapse. My father lay in one while Juanita slept in the other. That night, he heard footsteps circling the house. Then, scratching, as if someone were climbing up the window frame. Terrified, he opened his eyes and saw her. Dona Juanita herself, peering in from outside, trying to climb through the window. Their eyes locked. Slowly, the figure backed away into the dark. He wanted to get up and help her, but then he heard snoring. Turning, he saw Juanita asleep in her bed. Who or what had been at that window? He never found out. The witch in the forest. Not long ago, during one of our family trips into the forests of Hidalgo, my son had an encounter I still struggle to explain. He was exploring nearby with his faithful dog, Biosi. They were never far, always within earshot, until suddenly silence. No voice. No barking. Alarmed, we searched. Then, impossibly, Boc's barking shifted from just meters away to echoing far up the mountain, as if he'd traveled there in seconds. Moments later, my son came running back, crying and trembling. His shirt was torn, his back bleeding from a deep scratch. Through sobs he said only, "The witch tried to take me." Later, he explained he'd followed a noise near camp. Something moved in the high branches of the trees. Then he saw her, a woman hanging from a branch, who suddenly launched at him like a bird. He felt her hand claw at his back, then Boc's furious growls. The dog fought her off and chased her into the mountains. Hours later, Boc returned, exhausted, covered in dirt and blood, most of it not his own. We told ourselves it must have been an owl, maybe some animal protecting its nest. But deep down, none of us believed it. From that day on, I never let my son out of my sight. Not even for a second. The girl in the window. There's a girl in the window. Those were the words my daughter repeated again and again when she first learned to talk. We always checked, carrying her to the glass to prove no one was there. Yet she'd cry, burying her face in my chest to avoid looking. She often woke up screaming in the night. Sometimes she ran from her room in terror, whispering about the girl who tapped on her window, asking to come inside. I told myself it was just her imagination, an imaginary friend. But one night, she burst into our room, hysterical, repeating, "She's inside. She's inside." That panic was so severe it nearly stopped her little heart. We rushed her to the hospital. From then on, she slept with us for 3 years. And then we saw it. A handprint on the outside of her window. Smudges clear as day. We lived on the 12th floor. Even now, I can hardly bear to look at that window after dark. That was today's collection of chilling tales. Whether they were dreams, imagination, or something truly beyond our world, only you can decide.